Well, all right, all right.
All right.
All right.
All right. All right.
You know,
Welcome.
welcome, welcome,
We have
welcome.
some real conversations. And, my name is Dr. Gregory Clarke.
And I'm Dr. Cheryl Clarke, and we're here to have some real conversations with I like what Greg is saying now, real people.
And real people. About real people.
No.
Sometimes we can be sitting there and be like, everything is theoretical. No, we're talking about some real people.
Yeah. Well, today on today's show, we are having this is our second episode, and today we're having before you get married. There's five conversations that you need to have.
Not finding five.
So before you get the venue, before you have the flowers,
come on,
before you get booked the menu, before you have the music and the DJ going on, and you arrive and you're doing all this thing to the altar,
in the limo and all
that other stuff, all that great stuff, you're gonna have these 5 conversations. And what we're gonna ready to do today, the beautiful wedding that will happen for one day. One day, we got you. We got the one day. We need to have a healthy marriage, and it requires 2 people. It requires 2 people who know how to speak to one another and how to be in a relationship with one another.
Now, what's so powerful is that at times, it's not only for those individuals who are about to get married, even if you're a couple already, and maybe you may be going through a certain patch or a certain, something that's just not necessarily feeling great at the particular moment. Did you have some of those respective conversations? Because I know when I start to think about it, I know when I was dating Dr. Cheryl, I was about to say Dr. Dating, but when I was dating Dr. Cheryl way before the doctorate, and when you start to go through those spaces of, getting, starting to move towards marriage, you start to recognize that there are a bunch of questions and a bunch of conversations. You're about to bring in 2 individuals, 2 different opinions, 2 different perspectives, and they're becoming one. And so I know I had a particular background. She had a particular background. This has nothing to do with background, because technically when you come together, y'all are forming what it is that y'all have agreed upon. And so when you think about these 5 relevant conversations that have to happen, even if you're already married, think about it. Think about it. So did y'all talk about money? Did y'all talk about
Well,
faith?
you get into it. But,
I'm just jumping right into it.
Don't jump into it yet.
No, this is
the one thing
I can't just swim in.
No, you can't do this.
No watermelon, no lemonade?
No. So this is what you're going to do. I want you to listen up, because if you don't know what we do have premarital counseling that we do for couples, and we do officiate weddings, and we do a lot of the things preparing you for your marriage. But like Dr. Clarke said, you may still be in the space where you've been married some time, and you still are getting in those, and you haven't had those relative conversations. So this is where we come in at.
Yes.
We're going to have some real conversations today, and I want you to buckle up, listen up, go share this video with someone, because it may be something that we say today that you haven't heard before. So absolutely.
That
is seriously, because the premarital conversation, we go through a whole list of things that it's and it's not just about love. You can love someone and not be prepared for this thing called marriage. So number 1 conversation, let's start off. Number 1, money, debts, and expectations.
Now, you heard my voice get a little bit deeper and expressive. The reason why money is so important, because at too many times, as Dr. Cheryl just alluded to, love is the most paramount and foundational part. Now, how are you going to live? How are you going to move? How are you going to be responsible? And I'm talking about responsibility. I'm not talking about moving and living. I'm talking about places. I'm not talking about your residence. I'm talking about how you're moving with your finances. Because if you're moving in a way that's not conducive for your finances to grow, regardless of how much love you have, you're going to be sitting there looking at each other like, yo, how's this getting taken care of? I don't know. How's that getting taken care of? Wait a minute. Did you have the relevant conversations? Oh, this is not the 1950s. We're not back in the 20th century. We are now in the 21st century. And if you're not having those relevant conversations, sometimes you got to get even a little more pointed and be like, yo, no, what's your credit score? Where is it that you do? How do you handle your finances? Are you behind on certain things? Are you ahead of certain things? All of those relevant conversations when it comes to money, debt, and how you're going to live is all a part of that resource conversation.
So money, so it's the foundation about money really isn't about the numbers. It really is, and Dr. Clarke will tell you a lot of times is that what scripts do we have in our head? He talks about this a lot because what we consider freedom, what we consider safety, security, control, generosity. Some maybe give, we're members of the church, and some people, oh, why do you give, and all that other stuff, and just the fear surrounding money, what you learned when you grow up. Because Dr. Clarke talks about this a lot when he talks to people regarding their money. And it's important for you to pay attention to the emotions that you have around your money. Because due to that person and what happens in that relationship, now we said we're going to get real here with you. In the very beginning of our relationship, I didn't have the greatest relationship with money. Money was not the thing. When I was growing up, my mother was a single mom. We both came from single parent households. But my mother borrowed from Peter to pay Paul. And Dr. Clarke had a different experience surrounding money. So when I got married, I got married and I was 19, sorry. I married, I was 19. I got 18 in my head. I got married when I was 19. And when I got married, I had so much debt from getting those credit cards and all the other stuff that I had.
And when you were in college,
they don't have them anymore.
But back in the day, you used to go to college, especially here. If you are a CUNY student, you remember that because we're CUNY alumni as well, or at least I am. And no, she's a CUNY alumni as well, even though she didn't graduate, but she's still an alumni. But you remember when they used to walk by, you would walk by going into the entrance of your campus and they'd be sitting out there.
They would sit out there with tables.
They would sit out there with tables.
Because they know that we're just coming, and they were just offering. So I racked up credit cards, bills. And Dr. Greg, he was really good with money. He had a handle on his money, had A1 credit, had these conversations about debt. He paid off all my credit card bills and I racked them up again. And he said, we had a real candid conversation around money. He was like, what is going on with you regarding money? And now, before I even buy anything, I keep it in my cart. Jesus. I make sure that I need this. I'm like.
But that's a good rule. Exactly. And that's something we're giving you this extra. Anytime that you're looking to purchase something, this is extra. And we're saying in the money conversation, put it in your cart. If it's there 48 hours later and you still know that it's a need or is going to quantify something that you actually need to utilize it for, then go get it. In the same way, even when you're dealing with credit, there's another caveat. Even if you're going to make a big purchase, if you know that you can't pay it off immediately, within 3 months, give yourself, if you can't afford to pay it off in 3 months, don't get it. Because now you may get caught up in the credit trap.
So here is the question that you need to ask yourself in this conversation. And if you can't have these conversations safely, this is where we come in at. Call us, okay? One question you're going to ask your partner. What did money mean in the same household that you grew up in? So what did it mean to you in your household? You need to get those things. Remember, mine was borrow from Peter to pay Paul, right? There was no such thing as saving. Clarke was like, save. What does that need to invest? What does that look like? The other question is, what financial subject do couples postpone because they feel uncomfortable? So that means, what financially do you postpone not having this relative conversation?
Now, what usually happens, and it goes on both parties, so it's not something that what I'm about to say is just women do that. No, men do it too. Sometimes part of that conversation is that, we're not very transparent about our finances initially. True. And so, I got this stash on the side. She got her stash on the side. And it's like, wait a minute. Even if you have your stashes on the side, that should be part of the overall conversation because we're recognizing, wait a minute, we have joint situations here. And of course, if you got your plain money and you got your money that if you utilize and you sit there and as we say, that entertainment dollar, and you go through that entertainment dollar, but home is taken care of, you got nothing to say. Yeah. It shouldn't be something that is like, I got to sneak this on the side. If you got to sneak anything, and this is still a money conversation, if you have to sneak and do something or take care of a bill, or you got to sneak and do it, it's like, wait a minute, why are you sneaking to take care of a bill? It's like, that just doesn't quantify to me. So remember, having a level of transparency especially around money, is very, very
and
important.
that goes into trust, but we'll get into that a little bit. And the last one is name one agreement, just one, that would be more useful than you assuming that your partner will simply handle the money in the house. So that means the agreement around money, don't just assume someone is going to handle the money. Have a conversation about that. All right? So we got those. The second conversation, this is a big one. Family and in-laws and boundaries.
Wait a minute. Shouldn't my mama be all up in the business telling me what to do and telling me how I'm supposed to be interactive with my boo?
Who did you just turn into?
I don't know. I that's for someone out there. I just invoked that. It just came over me. But no.
What?
No, and no. From my perspective, as we're getting into this very important part and very important conversation, you have to recognize something. And I kind of alluded to it earlier. Cheryl came from her background. Gregory came from her background. Now, ultimately, if we said that we're choosing to do something, we have to start to have those relevant conversations. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't hear opinions. You won't have people's perspectives. That's you can be respectfully responsible enough to like, okay, I can sit here and listen. Now, am I choosing to do what you say? Now, I have to make that choice within myself. Or am I making that choice with my partner that I'm deciding to do this life with? And too many times, if you allow those outside influences to start dictating when you're going to do this, when we're going to do that, how you're going to live, now you have to start to recognize, as much as their business of living, you still have to understand what y'all are doing.
So just like with Clarke and I, we had the conversation, and we do not want you to minimize your family at all. We both know that you cannot erase your family, okay? Traditions, loyalties, all of that. But we want to help you shape them. You should be able to shape your own narrative for your upcoming family. So you got to talk about holidays. You got to talk about privacy, what you're going to share, what you're not going to share, even financial help, who you're going to help, all of that, children, family, emergencies, all of those things are important conversations. And then you got to understand what that looks like for you, and how do you have a boundary in the relationship
and a balance.
Yeah, and a balance with family origin. We talk about that a lot. Culture. Dr. Clarke is Jamaican. I'm American.
So we represent people? Oh no. This is England. But right here.
Yes. So then when you're looking at that, the communication, you got to decide in that matter that together that you guys are going to communicate effectively. Together, you guys can speak more powerfully. But then you got to understand what that looks like. We were, it's so funny. We were having a conversation with a couple that we're doing premarital counseling with. And they had the same exact question, like, what happens when we have children and we're being pressured, but I'm not ready yet? And that he said to his fiance, he says, you know what? I'm going to talk to my mom about that. And I thought that was powerful because they had a conversation with us. And then she's like, I feel like I'm going to be disrespectful. He says, no, I'm going to have a conversation with her. Just like Dr. Clarke had to have a conversation with his mom about me. So there's certain things in the relationship that you can begin to do that. Yeah. And that it's not an autumn. And listen, and it's not going to be an automatic thing. They're going to you may have a little pushback a little bit.
Which they have their right to. That's their opinion.
Exactly.
Opinion.
The problem is when the couple has no agreement in the sharing process. And then one partner continues to feel like the outside circle is bigger than the inside circle. And that's when you got to ask yourself these couple of questions for this particular conversation.
Well, think of it this way. Think of it as two circles, and now it becomes a Venn diagram. And for those of you, my mathematical people, you understand what it is. Always with statistics, that Venn diagram, remember, now there's certain areas that y'all are intertwined with. Like there's certain areas that I'm definitively intertwined with my wife, even though I'm my own circle, even though she's her own circle. But when you start to recognize now, all of a sudden, those two circles are supposed to be intertwined, and now we're trying to squeeze in a third and a fourth, that gets messy. Stay in the space where the two circles who have decided to come together have that area where they have their commonality, which shows why they have this union, and then respectfully hear and you can listen to the opinions, but make a conscionable decision between you and your partner.
Yeah. So the agreement is that we will have the necessary conversations before you go and have conversations with the outsiders. And the outsider is any extended family that's not in your nucleus. That's what that means. And as you begin to build that muscle or surrounding that, you will begin to see that there's not going to be a blame game, because now you guys are going to be able to see that you are moving more powerfully together.
Excellent. What's number 3?
Number 3, faith, values, and decisions.
Now, this is a big one because I've seen relationships that didn't work, not because of the love, because people may have had different religious backgrounds, and now you're dealing with that. So now
I would say faith. Mm-hmm.
No, but I'm going from even a cultural standpoint sometimes, and now you have to make those respective choices of, is the union that you're desiring to develop can withstand those outside things that were part of what has made you in your self-authorship. And so that is so important when we're talking about faith and your values, because we start to recognize, those respective conversations definitively have to get had. Are you going to be a churchgoer? Are you not going to be a churchgoer? Are you a tither? Are you not a tither? Are you, all of these are relevant because, someone may be going in one particular realm in their spirituality and the other person isn't. Doesn't make that other one who isn't less than, but now it's about recognizing, did y'all come together and agree? What is the agreement? And that comes back to our great book, The Power of the 4 A's, where we dealt with that with agreement. And make sure you get your copy from Amazon.com, or you can go to GregandCherylClarke.com to get that copy today. But the reason why that agreement is so important, if that's not established, regardless of whatever it is that you're working on, y'all always going to be disconnected. And what would you say to that?
I would say this, and that's what Dr. Clarke was talking about. That's decision, that faith and that value. We all have that. But when we make a decision together, that's what makes it powerful. Because now you're saying, and for any church leader, I will say this, now listen up. I get it. The church is that's your thing, the church. But you also have to understand your family is something too. Mm. And we had to make a real decision. Dr. Clarke was the pastor's assistant very early on in our relationship. And it really caused us to really, a lot of the conversation, a lot of the child rearing was on me very early on in our relationship. That was his job. He was traveling. The bishop was traveling a lot. And I had 6 small children. Thank God for my mother. Thank God for 2 of the sisters that came and stayed with us at the church. They came and stayed with us, because if I didn't have that support, I don't know what I would have did. Because Dr. Clarke, for the first 10 years of our marriage, he was traveling. He was traveling with back and forth, doing the work of the Lord. And that is something that I had to understand. And it took a toll on us. I will say now, we have such great boundaries when it comes down to what we do, the time that we give to church, and the time that we give here. And this is us nurturing our relationship now. This is fun for us now. This is not like a job. This is fun for us to be able to share this. This is a great time for us to share this. This is why faith is so important for us, because we knew at the nucleus that was for us, that we shared that. And this is why it's important for you to see what you share. What was your faith? What is your values? Because that's going to be important later on in your life, and how you begin to rear even your children. And you can see our children now, they love the Lord. But that's something that we decided that we were going to do early on.
Mm. What's number 4?
Number 4, roles and household. I don't like what this said. In the household,
she needs to have on her smock and be in the kitchen, cooking, and have her uniform, her maid uniform on, and she should be frying up the chicken and baking the bread And now, mind you, I'm joking. Mind you, you know how I won't say backwards, but you know how very regimented that is to say that, oh, because she's a woman, she's supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z, and this, that, and the third. And sometimes we can come in with some of these predefined roles or roles that we may have seen either by a television or sometimes even in our own household.
And let me tell you, I'm going to interrupt him because I used to do the laundry all the time. Now, the laundry was my thing. I would do the laundry.
Management people.
I would do the laundry, the dishes, all of it. But that's because a lot of time he was working, and he was working outside the home. And now, you know, the tides have turned when he was home a lot. Dr. Clarke is the one that does a lot of the laundry that we do. If I cook a meal, he usually washes the dishes or put it in the dishwasher, whatever it is. You know, so we decided to have an egalitarian relationship. But
well, for some balance.
It's a balance in it because in the very beginning, it was like a lot of times we have these gender roles that don't work anymore. So that whatever happens for you and building the marriage, and we'd say building the marriage across time, you get to understand some of those antiquated ways don't work. Some it does work for other people. Now the agreement is that what am I going to do? Now, if you decide that you're the better cook, and that's fine, and what you're going to do, but how can we support in a relationship? And also, I would say this other caveat: you're modeling. You're modeling for your children. You're modeling for your family members. You're modeling. What does it look like for you both to have this relationship that's thriving? Because if one is always tired and beat down because of a role they never established, that could really take a toll on the relationship.
And usually, as to kind of sew that one up, if you don't have the conversations, now you're moving in an assumption. And you saw me playing with that word. But the reason why assumption is never good, because you can't make an ass out of yourself and the other person. Why? Because now if you go in there predetermined, pre-established, wait a minute, did you have a conversation with them? Do you have a conversation with him? No, he's supposed to take care of every single bill, and I get to whoa, pause. Did you have a conversation? Did you establish the roles and how y'all are working and developing? And was it an agreement?
And I will say this. You got to have those conversations, because what is a fair partnership now in the season? Because if someone works 50 and 60 hours a week, is it fair for them if you're staying home? What does that look like? So understand that the seasons do change in your life, and you need to have relevant conversations, because the time and energy that you spend having these roundabout loop conversations that are antiquated, you need to look at that. So
what's number 5?
So let's close this loop. So each of you need to name the task for this season that you're going to do, and then be able to move in there and use this as a space where now you can begin to have these roles and the household begin to be established. Okay. Now the 5th and the last conversation, it may not be the last conversation, but these are what we put in a 5 conversations that you must have before marriage. Okay. Conflict and repair. This is important, because the 5th conversation.
So we can't just we can't just beat up on each other.
Absolutely not. When we have conflict, there must be repair.
You can't go to war.
No, the question is never you're never not going to say that we're never going to not have these disagreements. You will have disagreements. You will have conflict. The question is, what happens when you do have these conflicts? What happens to the relationships? What can you do in there? Who do you speak to? And when you start hitting below the belts, meaning that you are insulting one another, you're giving threats and intimidation, all those things that happen, all those things are, and even in public, we speak. I know Dr. Clarke and I have had those times where if he had those things, you got to ask your question. You got to ask the question, what does it look like when it comes to a space that you are taking accountability and that you are actually saying, you know what, I apologize for that. What does that look like? Can you pause in a moment? And then you don't have to abandon the conversation, but you need to come back to the conversation to close the loop. Clarke?
Well, when you think about that, conflicts are going to happen. And the reason why, it may seem like I'm joking, but I'm not. You always have to establish the rules of engagement. And that's part of the conversational space, because you shouldn't be going to war. You shouldn't be going into something where it seems like an untenable space happening. And it's like, wait a minute, okay, the only thing we can do is, act like the water roses. That doesn't work.
Yep.
So if you can't establish yourself to say that, okay, how are we going to be disagreeing? We will disagree. How can we disagree without being disagreeable? And by being disagreeable means you're starting to do those things that can be those tactics that can be considered under the bell, or being a very disconcerting, very diminishing. And if that's how you have to move, or you think that's how you have to move, then you already have to rethink how you're working within the relationship. Yes, the relationship takes work. You can't sit there and just assume that, because you got a ring on your finger and she got a ring on your finger, okay, and all of a sudden you some sort of light switch. No, it takes daily work. It takes daily reaffirmation. It takes daily possibilities to even recognize. Even if you're going to be in those spaces where you might be not agreeable in, but you can be not agreeable and still be pleasant. Now, if you can do that, that means you are already having a successful relationship, because there are too many times where we've counseled people, where we've spoken to people, and it's like, and you start to hear some of the things that they're having disagreements around. It's like, that's not what you're really disagreeing about. But we're going to hear you. We're going to listen to you, and we understand. And let's get to the heart of the matter. And when we really start to get in the heart of the matter, for some of you who may need, some of our services, things of that nature, you know how to go to GregandCherylClarke.com to find out about some of those informations and make those inquiries today. But if you're not willing to be in a space where you can commingle and recognize that, number one, you're not perfect and your partner's not perfect, you will disagree. And in those spaces of disagreement, actually, you get an opportunity to grow. Because if there was no friction, as they say, iron sharpens iron. If there was no friction, that means everything will always be smooth, and you walk around and you hear couples say, well, we never get into arguments. This relationship ain't going to last. You're telling me you are in a long-standing, long-developed relationship and never had an argument? Somebody lying. I'm calling it spade a spade. Somebody lying. And you sit there and like, no, we never. Stepford wife, no, we never. No, disagreement is actually is good.
It's a healthy way. And it's always a healthy way of doing that. It's always a healthy way of making sure that can go forward. All right. So now, here is your assignment. You're going to choose one of the 5 conversations that we talked about. It's either the money, the family, the faith, decision, roles, conflict, whatever one that we talked about. Okay. And this is what you're not going to solve it today. Okay. You're just picking one. Choose one, right? Each person answers 3 questions. Okay. This is the questions. What do I believe? Okay. What am I afraid of? What agreement do I hope we can make?
Now, if you're watching this episode, make sure you drop those comments below so we can see what are your answers to those 3 questions and why is it so important? Because when you do these call and response, now you're not just here just viewing us and just looking at what we're talking about, but now you're applying it. You're taking your advantage of saying, wait a minute, okay, honey, what happens if what will your answers to those questions be? What will your answers to questions be? Now, as you get into that dialogue, it becomes beneficial because now you're starting to open up the possibility of how far you can take your relationship. And even if you're already married.
So let me give you, yes. If you're already married, you still can ask these same questions. Now, when you're doing this exercise, you're going to listen without judgment. Okay. You're going to listen before you start to negotiate something. Okay.
Listen.
You're going to listen to discover what sounds like, and even if you're in your own head, see if any fear comes up, any resistance comes up inside of you, because that's all the history that is trying to come up, right? And then and the expectation that you may have had of your partner, right, or of yourself that was never spoken, right? We have a section there about silent expectations, right? So then you're going to write down this new agreement that you're going to have in just one area, and just get clarity of how you can practice just that one area. Not from memory, not from a demand, it's going to be able for you to be able to do that.
Consistency matters.
Exactly. And so as we are moving forward these conversations, this is where we want to give you an invitation. If you would like for us to support you in your relationship and you felt like this, we don't want to leave you hanging in these assignments that we give you, because before you say I do, we want to prepare you for the marriage. We want to, you have to get the necessary tools. Yes. You got to get the necessary tools before you start preparing for a wedding. Let's prepare for the marriage. So if you're engaged, if you're considering marriage, if you are in a relationship now, if you're a couple in the church that needs, starting a couples ministry or whatever, we're here to support you in that. And we're also here to be able to move the conversation, because anything that we could change a conversation, you can change the relationship. So until next time, what are you going to say? Like, comment, subscribe, as we are moving this session into changing the conversations so we can change the relationships.